Let's continue with our coverage of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Get you a sense of how things are unfolding in London. Let's bring in UK-based journalist Alex Eliseev, who's live to us from that city this morning. Alex, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much indeed for speaking to us. Many had hoped this day wouldn't come. Others will tell you it was inevitable. You'll have to look far and wide in this country to find any newspaper not reflecting in one way or the other on the passing of the longest-serving monarch. How is the media responding to this moment? A great moment, without a doubt, for the British people.
Absolutely, and as you can expect, all of the newspapers you'll see today on the stands or online have gone into those dark tones. You're seeing a lot of black and white, lots of portraits, of course, just spread out across the front pages, and of course, only one face staring back at us, no matter where you look. Some of the newspapers have gone for younger portraits, some have gone for the Queen's later years, but either way, you're always seeing that same expression, regal, but soft in the same way. The headlines are going along the lines of, "Our hearts are broken. Our beloved Queen is dead." Some of the newspapers saying, "You did your duty." And one of them I thought was really powerful. It had a quote from her saying, "Grief is the price we pay for love." So all of the newspapers going along similar lines, but of course focusing firmly on one story.
Yeah, emotional scenes playing out outside Buckingham Palace expectedly yesterday. Do we expect much of the same today, especially because today is also a moment where we look forward to King Charles III speaking for the first time since ascending to the throne?
Indeed, and I think yesterday, if you think about the fact that the news broke very late in the day, so about 6:30 local time, people were making their way back from their jobs. They didn't have time yet to process it. Many would have got home, got some dinner on, maybe said a few words with the family, and then put the kids to bed. Today, I feel, is when the real impact of what's happened is going to come through. We've got lots of things happening today. The King, of course, traveling back to London. There's that address that you speak about. There's going to be gun salutes. The bells are going to ring. There's going to be no work being done by government, aside from, I think, about 10 hours of tributes pouring in. So lots and lots of that is going to be happening today. But I do think that even at the family levels, you're going to start to hear people talking about it, families talking about it. The schools are going to have to discuss what's happened with some of the kids. I've got a 9-year-old who's at school here, so it'll be really interesting to see how today plays out. And then at the end of it, of course, is that first public address by the country's new king.
And I imagine some of the obvious questions to be asked is what kind of tone he is, the kind of tone he should strike if he is to capture the imagination of many people who have for years now been questioning even sometimes the relevance of the monarchy in British society. Already concerns being raised that he is unlikely to find resonance with the people of Britain the same way his mother did.
Absolutely. If you think about the service of his mother, of course, 70 years, I often tell people who I speak to that if you come and experience the country here, it sometimes feels like you're flying in a big Boeing or something. It's steady, it pushes forward. There is always turbulence. Sometimes you'll get something like Brexit that shakes it up. Sometimes there's the political scandals, but it keeps moving. And I think a big part of that momentum is supported by the work that the Queen did. People may not have been talking about her every day, all the time, but she was always there in the background, giving that support, giving that feeling of continuity. And yes, I think that now there is a rapture, there is a moment where the monarchy needs to make itself valuable again, make people believe in what it adds in terms of value to the country. I know yesterday already, of course, lots of people expressing sadness and sympathies, but also those debates have already started on WhatsApp groups, at breakfast tables and so on. Is it enough value that people get from it, and should perhaps something change? I can't say Prince, he's King. King Charles, of course, didn't have that same popularity that his mother did. Some people felt that it should have skipped over to Prince William. So yes, there's going to be naturally those debates, and I think a lot of it will depend on the kind of tone that's struck immediately. There have been a lot of scandals. In a way, this will force everybody to just pause, reflect, think, and then figure out how we move forward from there.
Yeah, and certainly no telling what the way forward actually looks like. But for many people who are interested in the arc of history itself, it'll be interesting to hear how the fact that Queen Elizabeth wasn't actually born to be queen lands with certain people especially when you consider how long she's been on the throne. I mean, many people will tell you it was because her father's brother had advocated that her father ended up being king, and that's how she became queen herself. At that time, nobody could have told that she'd be the longest reigning monarch, and that's certainly going to have a bearing on her legacy.
Indeed, but if you, of course, then consider the life of King Charles III now, he's been waiting for this for a really long time. Some would say that he was born to rule, and he's definitely been waiting there for a really long time, waiting to step up and take over. And in fact, over the past little while, we've seen that already playing out. The Queen taking a step back, moving away, retreating a little bit and letting her son take over many of the formal duties that she would have been doing in the past. So in effect, this is something that he's been preparing for his whole life, and I think now is the moment where he shows us exactly what that looks like, what are the coming years going to be. And he'll be doing that, of course, as the country moves through that mourning, that period of mourning that's kicked off already and will play out for the next 10 to 12 days or so until the funeral takes place. But expect, of course, a lot of pomp and ceremony. There's going to be a lot of that. The schedules are going to be choreographed to the last minute. If you can be sure of one thing, and that is that everything here is going to play out just like it's been planned for so long. And in fact, I remember after moving here about 6 years ago, 5 years ago already, I was reading about the London Bridge is Down plans that were firmly in place, and they lay out all of the days that follow, of course, this news that's just happened. And it will be really interesting to see how all of that comes together, culminating, of course, in that funeral that will be happening in about 10 or so days' time.
Yeah, really extraordinary how the passing of one person can affect so many other people, not only in Britain, but certainly around the world. Alex, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. What a pleasure it is to catch up with you. Alex Eliseev is a UK-based journalist, live to us there from London as we keep watching the story for you.